You know, I got to make sure he's all right. But I want y'all all to put your hands together for my good brother here. Brother wrote the book called God, G's Decoded. My brother here, Mr. Babanu. See that long name he got? But I love him, the brother's working. He's a good brother, man. Good to see you, brother. Thank you. Good to see you, man.
Wow, man, that was a riveting presentation. It definitely drew me in because, you know, a lot of us don't want to believe that the worst can happen, which is major disaster. And it's happening, and it's going to happen in more places. We live in one of the most intense transitional periods in the zodiacal cycle, which is the transition from one age to the next. When I first came into, let's call it knowledge of self, there was a lot of things that we discussed. I was 18 years old then, and one of the things that we would discuss is that history has always recorded when you're moving from one age to the next, there's going to be a lot of earthquakes, a lot of volcanoes, a lot of flooding. It's always been like that. And as I, you know, got a clearer understanding of the universe itself and what we are living in, you know, this planet next to the sun is very, very small. The sun is huge compared to this planet, and its weight is made to be felt on this planet. So it's not only Mother Nature reacting to having to cleanse herself, it's also in partnership with the other planets in the solar system. We are living inside of water. The interstellar medium, the space between planets is not empty as science teaches you. It's hydrogen in a liquid state, it's water. We're living inside of water. So if you're living inside of water, the movements of the planets are causing wave ripples. And when it's time to change, that becomes more intense. And that, you could say it might compress or push or slowly move the planet that we are on. It affects plate tectonics, you know? It affects volcanic outflow. And since the last couple hundred years, we've seen the rise of European culture, which is absolutely decadent. Major destruction has to happen, you know? The people that I work with, the deities, ancestors that I work with, they took 4 years before they told me all of Western civilization is going to be destroyed. It's going to be leveled to the ground. It has to be. It's built wrong from the ground up. You cannot be moral in Western civilization. And that's a problem. You know, we could do lecture after lecture that proves you can't be moral in Western civilization. The latest Zeitgeist movie proved that very, very well. And if you can't be moral in the civilization that you live in, but the creators of the universe that we live in, they pioneered morality, they abhor immorality, they're going to destroy it. Be prepared. One of the things that I'm preparing for is a future life. I'm preparing for a future paradigm on Earth and elsewhere. Life isn't like this in other parts of the universe. It's cool, you can make this a great place if you can, but if you ever have to move on, you really have to give up your earthly perspective. And what we've seen as earthly perspective in the last, say, about 1,300 years is very, very immoral. So I was asked to write about love, and my books are about love, and how love is the theory, love is the practice, love is the methodology that was used to create the universe. And I proved it. It's not a theory, you know. Living it is another thing. We're living in very, very decadent times. What I also found is that ancient cultures, the way that they built themselves, from the ground floor up, from the first brick of a building, the first position of a house, you know, is based on what they call fractal mathematics and the alignment of planetary bodies to make it easier for the population to be moral, to be rational, to be healthy. You come to Western civilization, they just drop things here and there. There's no methods. There's no methodology around proportions, you know, around distances, around math. You know, the word math comes from the word ma'at. Ma'ati, ma'atikos, the direct origin of the word math. So when you understand proportions relative to order, you understand that these things are very, very critical for having a healthy, harmonious civilization. The way that plants grow, the way that leaves grow, you know, they're calling it fractal mathematics. We call it Kefa or Ifa. This is where the word Hefa comes from, you know, the great mother, because she is feminine, meaning that it was a woman that pioneered how things can grow in proportional love. Love as growth and expansion is going to happen whenever you're trying to build something. How do you get something to grow proportionally that maintains its structural integrity and thus its moral integrity? These are some of the things that had to be figured out for life to be healthy. You know, we see it in flowers, we see it in roses, we see it in the spiral of galaxies. You know, Western scientists and researchers, you know, they're talking about this stuff now. In too many cases, they talk about it as though it's a new discovery. That's one of the issues that I have, because the foundation that Western culture stands on is based on it being an improvement on Asian cultures. And I would give them technology. That's all that I would give them. You know, I don't think that cell phones are bad. I think you can make a cell phone that doesn't give people tumors. You know, I don't think the cars are bad. I think that you can make vehicles that use fuel that doesn't pollute. But that just proves where they are in their evolutionary development. At the same time, there was something necessary that they had to add. You know, and I don't take that away from them. But it's just for me, this isn't something I started studying in this life. This isn't something that we started studying and practicing and living in this life. This is something that some of us, for hundreds of thousands of years, never ever moved away from. Regardless of whatever type of innovations we brought to civilization, whatever way we express our creative uniqueness, we didn't do it without that wisdom. That's what Western culture did. They chucked that wisdom to the side and just went on a rampage. Matter of fact, the worst natural, so-called natural disaster on the planet has been the rise of Western civilization. The worst tsunami we've been hit by is Western civilization. You know, there's this saying, it's been brown so long you thought it was green. Some of us, in our conscious mind, we don't realize we've been slammed very, very hard. We've been traumatized and we need to heal. Traumatized to the point where when you become traumatized, you suppress the memory so you don't deal with the emotional reaction to the trauma. But then you don't benefit from the lesson when you suppress that memory. I'm a priest, by the way. I'm initiated as a Hungan, a high priest, Asogwe in Haitian Voodoo, and I'm also initiated as a Babalawo in the Yoruba tradition. And it's shamanic. You know, some of us are born this way. We don't need initiation. When Ifa was divine for me, I was born this way. I can look and see and smell people. I can smell people's problems. I can smell their fears. And, you know, it was frightening. You know, you're looking at people and you can see things. You think other people can see these things, but they can't. So, you know, but what happens now, when you start running from that gift that you have, it becomes more intense. And you find that a lot of people are running from the past, from themselves. A lot of people are running from their pain, from their trauma. A lot of people don't want to address what has happened. And that's critical for us to move forward. You know, a lot of us have become numb. You know, we live a numb life. We don't live a full life. You know? And we are at varying degrees in dealing with what has happened to us as a people in the past, say, 1,500 years. You know? Some of us are adamant about